All right, everybody. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. Welcome, students. Thank you guys so much for showing up for your transfer Q&A session. First, I just want to say congratulations to all the upcoming transfers, all the upcoming graduates. You guys have worked so hard. We're very happy to have you guys a part of the Detroit Promise, and I'm excited to make sure that y'all have a smooth transition. With that being said, we're gonna go ahead and jump right in it. If anyone has any questions or concerns, you can feel free to, pause me at any time throughout the presentation. But we are going to save a little bit of time afterwards for questions. So with that being said, we can go ahead and get started. First, I just want to tell y'all that the Promise Transfer Fair is going to be taking place on April 10th, I believe. Um, but this is actually going to be an in-person event. So what's going to happen is all of the colleges are going to be there on April 10th at the University of Michigan Detroit Center, and you'll have an opportunity to, visit each table, of the school that you're interested in. Most students have already made a selection, and you know what school you're interested in transferring in. But it's a good time to, communicate and to just build the relationships already with the people that you'll be transferring with. So that's again going to be on April 10th from 4 p.m. to 7 o'clock p.m. at the University of Michigan Detroit Center. And y'all will get an invitation for this. Your campus coaches should have you on the transfer list that we have. So our transfer person will be reaching out to you guys very soon. Now I just kind of want to talk about some of the transfer requirements. Now, most of y'all who have been connected with me has already gone through this chart, depending on what school you want to go to. So say, for example, if you want to go to Wayne State University, you know that in order to transfer with the Detroit Promise Scholarship, you need to have at least a 3.0, 58 or more transferable credits, or an associate's degree, and you can transfer in either the fall semester. It is fall and winter. Winter is not on here, but you can transfer in either the fall or the winter semester, and it'll cover your last 2 years for your bachelor's degree. Now I have had some students tell me like, well, I'm thinking about transferring to Wayne State in the spring or summer. You can transfer during those semesters, but you just have to be mindful that the scholarship doesn't cover that. So you would technically be paying out of pocket or seeking other means to, pay for your tuition and for your balance. Um, I just tell students to make sure that if you are transferring before the fall or the winter semester, just to make sure that you have the Detroit Promise transfer application filled out, which we'll talk about a little bit more. But you guys can access this chart on the Detroit Promise website. Um, just go through like a list. Again, if you already know, what school you want to transfer to, then just make sure that you're connected with me and you know what GPA you need at the time of your last semester. Like when you're getting ready to walk across the stage, you want to make sure in your last semester you have the Detroit Promise transfer requirements for the GPA and for the total amount of earned credits. Now, some students will ask, well, I am missing a certain number of credits or like I'm a credit off. And I just tell students, just make sure you have everything you need because if you're not meeting the requirements, then you won't get the scholarship. So you want to have a conversation with your academic advisor, have a conversation with your campus coach just to work out some alternatives. You know what I'm saying? If you need to get an extra semester, that's something you and your campus coach can talk about, just to make sure that you solidify the scholarship. Now, I kind of want to just go into a brief reminder about your Promise Transfer Scholarship. And most of you already know the requirements behind the Detroit Promise Scholarship because you're receiving it right now at your 2 year. So you know that it's only for Detroit residents. It's a last dollar scholarship and it's tuition based only. Um, this means, again, the same way that it works at your 2 year college, is tuition based only. So if you're planning on living on campus at like University of Michigan Dearborn, then you have to keep in mind that the scholarship is not going to cover housing. It only covers tuition. So if you plan on having a meal plan, if your school has that once you transfer, just know that Detroit Promise is covering tuition based only. Something else to keep in mind is the expiration. So this kind of depends on the school. So I'm gonna go back to the chart real quick just to show y'all. But say, for example, Alma College, you get the Detroit Promise funding all the way through graduation. So it's kind of similar to the requirements or through the availability at your 2-year community college. However, Madonna University is only good for 2 years. Michigan Tech is only good for 2 years. Oakland, Walsh College, Wayne State, University of Michigan, only good for 2 years. So that means that once you transfer over to your transfer school on the Promise Scholarship, you want to be like on top of everything. You don't want to be taking a semester off. You don't want to be taking a break or failing out or dropping out because you're on a contract or like an agreement for the scholarship that's saying, hey, I received a scholarship. I know it's only good for 2 years. I plan on being done within 2 years. Now, on a case by case basis, for some students who are in a certain program and they're like, okay, it's extra credits that's needed for this program. I just need an extra semester. On a case by case basis, we will have students submit like an appeal form to like appeal for it, but that's like no guarantee. So that's why we encourage y'all to make sure once or if you transfer on a Promise Scholarship, you got to make sure that once you get there, you hustling and bustling because you got to get done within 2 years in order to maintain your scholarship. After the 2 years, then you won't get the scholarship anymore, and then you'll be paying out of pocket with other financial means. Now, step one is to research and decide. I've talked to most of my students about this already. You want to make sure that you plan at least a year in advance. And the only reason why I say a year is because I know what goes into having a smooth transition. And you want to make sure that you start having these reflection conversations about like, okay, well, what schools does the Detroit Promise partner with for the transfer? Where would I be interested in? Does location matter to me? Does the program, the area of study, does that matter to me? You have to be researching and deciding all of this in advance before you actually transfer. Some students will wait until the last couple of semesters to say, okay, I got to do this, I got to do that. And then next thing you know, they rush in and then they don't have everything they need and then it just doesn't end up being a smooth transition. I would rather for students to have like a peace of mind, to know that they're working on everything accordingly and that it's getting done. You want to make sure that you've already researched your program, your area of study. Is there any deadlines? Is there a certain GPA requirement? Because again, the Detroit Promise, we have a GPA requirement for different transfer schools, but depending on what program you're going into, like nursing or business, they might actually have a higher GPA. So that's something else to take into consideration as you're researching and deciding. And then you have to decide on what semester are you planning to transfer to. And again, are you living on or off campus? So all of this should be in your plans prior to transferring. And then Talea has her hand raised, so I'm gonna go ahead and let Talea go.
Yes, sorry. It was the question on the last slide about the requirements for the scholarship, and it said Detroit resident. So does that still apply? Like, do we still need to be living in Detroit?
I believe that's a good question, Talea. I believe that your transcript, because the transcript or the what is it called? I think it's the transcript, the high school transcript that you use to get into Schoolcraft. That is the one that's going to be the address that should be sent to your transfer school. So it has to say that address. Um, and the thing is that you are already considered a Detroit Promise student, so you already qualified. And you
Okay.
qualified because you had the Detroit residency at the time of attending Schoolcraft College.
Okay. Okay. Thank
So
you.
Yep, you're welcome. Once a Detroit Promise student, always a Detroit Promise student. So if your residency change right now, it shouldn't matter. But that's a good question. So I'm probably gonna ask Kanisha, who is going to be y'all university engagement manager once you transfer. But yeah. And then the next step is you want to plan with your academic advisor. So once you decide what school you want to go to, what's going to be your program, you want to go to your academic advisor to discuss what's your current GPA, what is your how many credits have you earned so far, and what classes are going to be transferable. So you decide that, you speak with an admissions representative, at your transfer school or the desired one that you want to go to. Say, for example, if it's Oakland University, you want to try to reach out to their admissions representative to see if they can, give you more information about the program, give you a college or a campus tour, just to kind of tell you more about the school so that, again, you can solidify your plans of transferring. The next thing is to attend your coaching sessions regularly. So I say this to students because during this time, you just want to make sure that you're not missing anything, and you have to be plugged in with the right resources to make sure that you have what you need to have a smooth transfer. If you connect with your campus coach and you're being transparent, like I want to transfer, I'm working on getting the GPA I need, the credits that I need, you and your campus coach can work together to make sure that you're staying on track. And then in the process, as always, email me. I'm the Promise Transfer Coordinator if you have any questions or concerns regarding your transfer process. But all of these things are in step 2 as you're planning your transfer. And then step 4 is now you want to take action. Because now, let's say, for example, you in your last 2 semesters, it's almost time to transfer. You got the GPA requirements, you right on track to get in the credits that you need. You know what school you want to go to, you know what program you're going into. Now it's time to complete your FAFSA application because you want to make sure that you have a FAFSA application on file at your school, the one that you're planning on transferring to. You want to do an admissions application because you got to apply to the school, you got to get accepted. So you want to pay attention to if that application has a deadline. I know that different programs, they do have a deadline. Some programs are on a rolling basis. So that just means that they accept students on a rolling basis. It don't matter what semester it is, they accept students all year round. But some programs only accept students during a certain time of the year. And that's something that you want to take into consideration. And you can always talk to your admissions counselor for confirmation about that. But another important part is just to submit your scholarship form. So the Detroit Promise, we have a transfer scholarship form that you guys have to fill out. This is in order to verify you, to make sure that you're eligible to receive the scholarship. You will need your acceptance letter and your college transcripts. No screenshots. You want to make sure that you download the file and submit it to the application. So your acceptance letter, sometimes like once you get accepted into like Madonna University, they'll send you like an email with your acceptance letter, or they might send it in the mail. But either way, you want to be able to have it on a digital copy of it, and you want a digital copy of your college transcripts, and you'll need those 2 documents when you're completing your scholarship form. And then you're going to receive a follow-up email regarding next steps. So once you submit the Detroit Promise Scholarship form, you'll get an email, an automated email, letting you know, like, hey, you completed first step of your verification process. This is going to be coming from the Detroit Promise. And from there, it's going to go directly to your transfer school, and then it has to go through a final approval process by the college before you can be awarded. Now, I've been telling my students this just to kind of give them a heads up, but some colleges do take longer to approve the application versus some other colleges, for various different reasons. But I just tell y'all, just because we approve it on our end, it doesn't mean that it's not officially approved. it has to get transferred. It has to get, the Detroit Promise Scholarship has to get sent over to, say, for example, Madonna University, and then the financial aid office does a final review, and then that's when they decide, okay, this student is eligible. We're going to go ahead and apply the scholarship. So this does take a while. So that's why I tell you guys, let's make sure that we're getting this done ahead of time, so that you're not missing anything. Um, Kirsten said, when you get the chance, could you email that link or will it be sent at a certain time? I can send the link. Um, I can send it to you guys. Well, actually, Kirsten, if you email me, I can send you like a checklist. And I'll be talking about the checklist throughout the meeting. But in that checklist, it got the Detroit Promise link to the scholarship application. So you'll be able to kind of go through everything, each step, step by step, and you'll be able to submit the form. So I'll make sure that everybody gets that today. And then, so now you had a post-successful transfer. So you have completed all of the steps. You researched, you decided, you started planning, then you started taking action and you getting everything submitted. Now, next is just the post-successful transfer. So you already at the school. You already done transferred to Wayne State. You got the Detroit Promise Scholarship. You're starting classes. You're good to go. Now, some students, again, y'all might see a balance on your account even when you do transfer. So this is kind of taking me back to what I'm saying about the scholarship, the Detroit Promise Scholarship. It may not be approved right away because it has to go through different steps. So if you complete the application, I will get it and I will see it and I will go in there into our system right away. And I'm looking at your GPA, I'm looking at your earned credits. And if I see that you met the requirements, I'm going to complete first step verification and we're going to send it off to your transfer school like right away. Now, what happens at that time is out of our hands because, again, it's going to be now your financial aid office has to verify and complete the final step to make sure that you're eligible to receive this scholarship. That can take a while. That can take a while. And most students do get anxious during this process because they like, I did the application months ago and I still haven't got the scholarship. Like, what happened? You just want to make sure that you give it enough time. You can always stay in contact with me to see what's going on with your application. But once you transfer, you're now assigned a Detroit Promise University Engagement Manager by the name of Kanisha Williams. And Kanisha Williams is going to not necessarily be your campus coach, but she's going to be your Detroit Promise point person. So if anything is coming up with financial aid, if anything is happening with your classes, Kanisha is going to be your point person as a Detroit Promise student. I mentioned before, no gap years. So on a Detroit Promise scholarship, to transfer, you can't take any gap years. You have to go all the way through, all the way through. You want to make sure that you're maintaining the scholarship. So the GPA requirements, not taking any gap years, being done within a certain amount of time, all of that is going to be in your contract or in your agreement form for the transfer, Detroit Promise transfer application. My next thing I tell students is just be persistent and be consistent. So once you transfer over there, just go straight through, work toward getting your degree. Don't take off any semesters, any gap years, just go straight through and then you'll be good to go. Here's a list of some of our outreach people at the different schools. You guys can screenshot it, or I can actually send this PowerPoint to y'all. It will be posted on the YouTube channel, so you guys can always go back and review that. But you are going to have a team of people at your transfer school that's going to help you complete your last 2 years or basically complete your time at your transfer school until you get your degree. You got a team. So it might not be like, oh, my campus coach at my 2 year and the people who's at my 2 year, but you still got your promise team, you still got representatives at your college who is going to be looking after you once you transfer. And then one of our students, Zara Alrafish, she was one of my students at Schoolcraft College, and she transferred to Wayne State University. I want to say maybe about a couple of years ago. But she has successfully transferred. She got the Detroit Promise Scholarship, and basically, she just encouraging y'all to just not be intimidated, during this transition because you coming from a 2-year college where it's so much, it's much intimate in a smaller capacity. Now you're transferring to a 4-year college or a university where it's a lot of people. So you might have a lecture class where it's a lot of people, and so those new experiences can kind of sometimes be nerve-wracking. But one of our students, she just want to let y'all know it can be done. It doesn't matter, the challenges, the trials, and everything like that. It can be done. The only thing you have to do, keep going, keep believing, and don't forget to celebrate like the small victories, the small wins. Celebrate that because that lets you know that you're moving forward and that you're getting to the finish line. So that's just a word of encouragement to let y'all know if Zara can do it, you can do it too. And now we're gonna move on to some questions and answers. So I will open it up to anybody who has any questions or concerns.
Okay, yes, I have one. Sorry. I know you literally said this and it was in the PowerPoint about the how it's tuition based and stuff. So if we do live off campus and like everything would be covered, because I know like it's extra fees like with tuition and then like extra costs like that they'll add on there like for computers, lab, like all of those costs. Will like financial aid cover those or like the scholarships that we have outside of Detroit Promise, like the
Mhm.
additional fees?
That's a good question, Talia. So, it's gonna be the same way at your 2 year. So at Schoolcraft, you have your FAFSA that pays out, then you got your Detroit Promise Scholarship, and then, like you said, sometimes you see like a fee. It's like campus fees or course fees or building fees, campus fees. You'll see the same thing at your transfer school. The Detroit Promise scholarship, it is last dollar and it's tuition based only. So it would not be covering any fees. Um, and to be honest, I don't know if any scholarship covers fees. Most scholarships do cover tuition, room, and board if that's offered, but that doesn't mean that just because the Detroit Promise won't cover the fees, you won't be able to find other scholarships that will cover it. So the only thing that you should have left if you're living off of campus is those fees, those college fees. But that's something that, you can easily kind of work around.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. That was a good question. And you guys don't forget to screenshot this screen because it has my email on here. And I really want y'all to email me. Most of your campus coaches have gotten you connected to me already, but if you email me, I'm more than happy to work with you to make sure you got what you need to have a smooth transition. It's better that you check in with me right now before you transfer than, wait to the last minute and you're like, oh, well, I didn't know I needed to have this. Didn't know I needed to have that. That's why you have to check in with me. So I have my email down here. You can just email me any questions or concerns. I will send you the checklist. I know Kirsten asked for the checklist, so I'm gonna make sure that I give that to her. But anybody else have any other questions or concerns?
Can you also send me the checklist, please?
Yes, I will. So Kirsten, Summer,
Can you send it to me as well?
yep, Rachel,
Yes,
absolutely.
thank you.
You're welcome. Rachel, what schools are y'all going to?
Oakland.
I'm going to Wayne State.
Wayne State.
I'm going to Wayne State too.
Okay. Wayne State, Oakland. Okay, okay. Are y'all excited?
Yeah, even though my program's like 100% async, I'm just excited to get it done.
Yeah, I feel that.
I'm excited, but I am a little nervous. I,
Yeah.
s- I, I talked to my advisor and stuff, and I like got everything set up to register for classes next week, but it seemed like it's so many classes I'm gonna have to take within these 2 years.
What's your program?
Accounting.
Oh, yeah. He's like, you got a lot of classes
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it right now.
Yep. Look, you on the right path. That's what you're supposed to be doing. Don't wait till the last minute. When you come
Exactly.
to classes like that, start getting
hmm
connected with tutoring, start going to study hall, get into your study groups. All of that
Does
is.
Detroit Promise offer like tutoring or anything of that nature?
I wish they did, but
hmm
it's not something that I would say, maybe they won't come up with in the future. But as of right now, that's not something that they offer. But Kanisha, your university engagement manager for the Detroit Promise, she gonna make sure that, she gets you connected with the right people to have, good resources that's gonna help you with your process. So even if it's not a Detroit Promise tutoring, and then sometimes y'all, I mean, you are going into like a new experience. So it's while it might be intimidating, it's just gonna be, I tell my students all the time, like Talea can tell you. Like I tell Talea all the time, like it's just gonna be a lot of stuff that's scary, but that's just a part of life. You just have to walk by faith. You just have to trust God, with what He has for you and knowing that He has you there for a reason. And all you got to do is just keep putting one foot in front of the other, trusting in Him, having faith, and you're going to get there. And that's just what I tell my students.
Amen to that.
Yes. Yeah. But it looks like that was all of the questions, y'all. Again, this is not the last you'll hear from me. You can always reach out to me, ask me any questions or concerns. I will make sure that you have a smooth transition, as well as Kanisha and our other transfer coordinators. So we're just gonna end it right here. I will make sure I get that checklist sent to Summer, Rachel, and Kirsten. And then if you have any questions, just reach out to me and let me know. But I hope y'all enjoy the rest of your week. Have a good and safe weekend. Again, congratulations on your upcoming transfer and just your new journey and chapter that you're about to start. And I'm just so happy for y'all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Have a good weekend.
You're
Bye-bye.
welcome. Have a good weekend.